and people go, oh, but they are, you're not well prepared. And then you create an illusion. And if you do not look for development in those areas, you're just going to become a victim of the system, right?
Today's guest was voted top 10 career coaches to be watched in 2021 by the Australian Business Journal. Originally from Brazil, she has over 2 decades of global experience working across strategy, people and culture, and recruitment. She's the founder of her brand, New Mind Consulting. Please welcome to the show, Juliana Owen. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Where are the
Yeah,
claps? Ta, ta, ta,
yeah,
ta,
that's it.
ta.
Very nice. Well, I'd love to start the show today, Juliana, and talk about your journey and kind of the start of your career, because you did quite a big thing, which is moving from somewhere that doesn't speak English to somewhere that does,
Mm.
and then trying to work out everything that goes along with that, trying to find a job and all the everything like that. I'd love to ask you, what was that experience like, and kind of what led you to come to Australia and start your career here?
Yeah, so I've started in recruitment and talent acquisition back in Brazil. I did degree in psychology, which was, I guess, my first step into this world of personal and professional development. It's very fascinating when you start understanding and learning how does this software here works and how you can use this for your own benefit in terms of putting yourself in different environments. So back in Brazil, I've worked for global businesses. And I guess the highlight of my career there was the ABN AMRO Bank, which was the largest outsourcing in Latin America. I also worked for a couple for the American business there, where I had the opportunity to set up the professional side of the business with very senior people. And that's when I start learning a lot about recruitment, strategies, career, and then the personal side comes with that because you're dealing with people. So when you're dealing with people, everyone pretty much wants to be, majority of us wants to be successful in life and career. So then I start combining all the part of the psychology also with the part of the business combined together. So I finished my degree in 2008, and I had a very good opportunity in Brazil to step up on my career. I was working for an American business, but I needed to improve my communication skills. So I decided to come to Australia, do a business for English course, get my communication skills up to speed, and I didn't have any plans to stay here for good. But I fell in love with Sydney immediately. How you're not going to,
Yeah.
right? For me, it's the most beautiful place in the entire planet. I love it here so much. So fell in love with Sydney, and then start kind of developing my communication skills and obviously looking for a job that would challenge me, right? So here in Australia, what I've been doing across recruitment and also consulting and talent acquisition. So I've worked for large recruitment agencies, and I have also worked for consulting businesses. And my last 2 roles before I set up New Mind Consulting was pretty much talent acquisition and head of talent, where I had to add my experience on the life side, on the personal self development side, and also the professional side. Along this journey here in Australia for the past 13 years, I have done a lot of different courses. So I've studied neuroscience, relationship counseling, cognitive behavioral therapy, PNL as well, neuro linguistic programming. And this all obviously helped me to combine these skills, give the best to clients that I was working in the corporate world. And this was the spark to pretty much start thinking about New Mind Consulting, which was a project that I had in mind for a long time. People naturally used to come to me back in the days in Brazil and also here in Australia, asking for coaching, mentoring across these 2 main areas. Life and career, they are much more interlinked than what we think. So usually if you're looking for your success at work, you will pretty much develop that much faster if you are well developed, or at least you have a solid kind of base on your personal side,
Yeah.
right?
No, cool. That's really cool. And I'd love to ask as well. So, the going from you working in recruitment, different sorts of roles in big companies,
Yeah.
and then you went to start your own thing. What was the was there a particular moment there that you were like, oh yep, I'm gonna do this now, like and go out on my own, or kind of
Yeah.
what's the story behind that?
Yeah, so this basically when the pandemic hit, I know there was a big shock for everyone around the world, right? Because people were being secure about their jobs, what's going to happen with the market situation, a lot of different aspects of life itself. But I had this project on the back of my mind, and I was working, towards the completion of this project. So when the pandemic hit, I was like, yes, that's exactly the opportunity I was waiting for, because I wanted to go and service different people around the world, because there are a lot of different nationalities that want to come to Australia and be successful in this country. I do think Australia gives a lot of opportunities for everyone. So working online would be the best way to go. So when the pandemic hit, I was like, perfect. So I'm going to set up an online platform. I can connect with people around the world, people that are looking to come to Australia, people that are already here, but because we're in lockdown, we cannot get out of our houses.
Mm.
And I guess that was the perfect timing, really, because I've been really busy since then, which is great news.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's interesting. Yeah, that you would kind of frame the pandemic as an opportunity. I think that's really cool that you think of it like that.
Yeah. Oh, look, James, I see everything that happens in life. This is actually one of the things that I work a lot with for my clients, right? We all naturally, when we see a barrier or a challenge that we need to overcome, straight away, because the way we've been, set up in society,
Mm.
straight away we think, oh, that's going to be a problem. Oh, that's negative. We always go towards that side. My job is to help people to change their mindset and make that become excited for them. So if you look at the challenges you're going to be facing as a platform for your success, not as a problem,
Mm.
it's much easier for you to get motivated, for you to get your determination, for you to get into that without feeling pain.
Mm.
So you actually on the challenge, and when you're on the challenge, your brain feels curious about what's the final outcome because I'm on the challenge. But if you're in the problem, you just go, well, I'm in the problem. What am I going to do here?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I saw the pandemic as a fantastic opportunity for my business.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's cool. I think that yeah, it's always exciting when people can yeah. I feel like many people would look at yeah the pandemic or something like that and be like, oh yeah, like you said, this sucks. Like it's
Yeah,
like all the negatives of it. So I think that's really cool that yeah you can look at something like
yeah.
that and obviously there are negatives, but we can look at the positives and choose to take it as something positive. I think that's really powerful. Um, One thing I want to ask too is so someone like yourself as a coach and things like that. I'm interested to know kind of what you actually do and kind of what a day in your life looks like. Because I feel like
Okay.
sometimes being a coach, it's kind of or helping people with careers or whatever it might be. It's hard to kind of have some tangible, okay, what does that actually involve? So perhaps I don't know. Obviously, we don't want to share like too much about what exactly you do, but I'd love if you could kind of give a bit of a glimpse about like perhaps what a day in Juliana's life looks like.
Okay. Look, I would say busy,
Yeah.
really, really busy. So usually my day starts around 6. I do my exercise in the morning. I actually do what I preach to my clients, right? So I think it's all about leading by example as well. And once you go through the process, you can understand what your client will be facing in terms of, difficulty to overcome one or other aspect of the process of self-development. So usually, I get up very early, do my exercise, do my meditation, have my breakfast, get myself ready for my first session. Usually, my first session starts at 7 in the morning.
Mm,
I also work around people's availability.
mm,
So that's another advantage about working online
mm,
and working from home because I have clients, for example, in London, when they waking up at 9 in the morning. Here in Australia, 6 p.m. But I also have clients that finish work at 6:30, and then their session will start at 7:30 p.m. So my day starts at 7, finishes around 9. Really busy. Diary management is something that is very
mm,
challenging on a daily basis because people change priorities, meetings, kids, whatever is going on in their life, and I'll work around this client. But usually I like to get myself ready so I can give the best
Mm.
I have to my clients and they can make the most of the sessions. The sessions usually go from 60 to 90 minutes, depends what we're working on and which program the client is actually interested in.
Yeah. No, cool. It's interesting to hear what it's like. Definitely, because yeah, like I said, I think coaching it's hard to understand. Like, okay, what is what do you actually do?
What do
Yeah,
they
yeah,
do,
yeah.
right?
Well, yeah, I'd love to kind of get into that and kind of perhaps like the sorts of things that you actually help people with. And my understanding is a lot of the clients that you help are, I mean, generally it's around career advice, but also people that are perhaps looking to do that in Australia and don't necessarily have the haven't grown up in
Yeah,
Australia and kind of have a different background. So I'd love to
yeah.
understand kind of what are perhaps some of the like some of the challenges that you commonly see. Like what is like a classic case that Juliana's out there
Okay.
to fix? Yeah.
Okay. So I would say in the career side, the biggest thing that comes to me, the majority of the time, it is clients looking for some guidance in terms of understanding about the Australian market, right? The way recruitment works here, the way the market works here is completely different from South America, Asia, America, India. So it's very specific. So the majority of the people come to Australia and go, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then they realize that, oops, there is something that I'm missing. How does this works? What do these people are looking for? So I
Mm,
would say understanding about the Australian market. Another thing that is also very common, it is when people basically want to know uh, literally the aspects of how am I going to get into this market. So now I understood how this works. How am I going to get into this? Right. And that's when it comes the job that I do in the
mm,
career coaching side of things. So I've got programs where we can set up the professional portfolio, which is CV, cover letter, LinkedIn. There are programs that have this combination and a mock interview as well, and other programs that I do a kind of more detailed report and assessment, personality test. And also, I got a program that is initial 5 to 10 weeks where I develop that accordingly to the client needs. So I've got clients in Australia already looking for career transition or changing markets or looking to step up in their career. How can we do that?
mm.
But usually it is about understanding what the market is and how am I going to get there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, basically, this in the career side, right? In the life side, the life coaching side, because the areas are
Mm,
super interlinked. So I would say confidence, I would say relationship across the board, family, friendship and working relationships as well is something that comes up very big, especially because here in Australia we got people from all over the world,
mm,
and it's very challenging from someone that comes from a specific culture to fit in the Australian culture, which I love because it's very straightforward. People are very black and white, but there are people that don't really understand why. Oh, I
mm,
went to an interview and the client says this and that. I don't think he liked me. And I was like, no,
mm,
that's actually standard.
mm.
You did very well. And then the person calls me back and said, I've got the second interview.
Yeah. Wow.
So it takes a little while for them to warm up, right? Um, and basically, having career and life interlinked, my job is always to have a positive impact on these people's
Mm.
life, right? Having the end result, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned there are some differences in Australia, like
Yeah,
compared to sort of the rest of the world. What are some of those
yeah.
differences? Like, where does Australia like? Perhaps are they good and bad differences in your opinion? I don't know. Yeah, what are some differences there?
I think it's actually fantastic. I really love the Australian culture. That's why I love this country so much.
Mm,
Um, Here, people are very black and white and very straight to the point. I think if you look across, different markets, some professionals they will think that being generalistic it is a very positive thing. Also, I can do one, two, three, four, five different things. Look how awesome I am. Well, great, wonderful that you can do five different things. But here in Australia, the market is a specialist, is not a generalist market.
Mm.
So the client will be looking for their specific skills, their specific mindset, perhaps their specific attitude for you to develop their job and to add value to the business. So a lot of my clients that come from overseas. They usually take a little while, but that's obviously the work, which is very rewarding afterwards when they can get the results. But understanding that they need to focus in one area, and the area is usually the area that they like the most,
Mm.
and that's how you become a specialist, and that's how you generate this value to the company, to whoever you're working with. So I would say being more a specialist than generalist, it is one of the main characteristics here.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting perspective because I guess like many of us and young people like myself, even like we haven't really seen many other like sort of job like marketplaces or whatever that aren't in Australia. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to hear that. Definitely.
Mhm.
Um, so, like, what would your advice be? I mean, someone that's coming in from overseas here, and they have that more of a generalist like approach to jobs where they are
Mhm.
across multiple areas. What's the next steps for them there?
Mhm.
How can they like is it more of a framing of their experiences that they are a specialist in certain areas, or is there an element of like upskilling where they do actually need to go and learn things so that they can
Mm.
actually become more of a specialist?
Yeah, so this is the thing. I think the first thing, my advice would be look for someone that will know how this works, right? Look for a professional that will help you to understand that,
Mm.
because there are a lot of different ways of presenting a CV, a cover letter, a LinkedIn, depending where you are, right?
Mm.
So, for example, in South America, the cover letter, it is a more general overview about yourself. So you pretty much put everything in there, right? A lot of details, a lot of different information. Here in Australia, it works completely different. When the job asks for a cover letter, they are actually asking for you to highlight to the business what are your abilities matching with the job that you can actually be able to provide to the company. So they are looking for reassurance that you would be a potential candidate for them to interview and not waste their time.
Mm.
And they're not really interested if you like swimming or if you like football. They just want to know in this first stage of the process, I want to know how can you actually add value to my business? What do you have that will help us to get to where we want to get? And how can we as a business can help you to develop your skills further. And obviously there are a lot of different areas in CV and LinkedIn as well that I can talk a little bit more in
Mm.
detail. But my first advice is, if you don't know where you are in terms of, okay, I understand about the market, I understand this, and if you don't know, look for a professional. Do not make a mistake of, oh, I'll see how you go, I'll give it a go, because you will regret. The Australia market, especially here in Sydney, the markets is small, right? And once you start putting your name out there, it is your reputation.
Mm.
You will be known as James. I will be known as Juliana, and people will talk about you as you grow and you develop your career. So, if you are a specialist in the area, if you understand what these people are looking for, you definitely going to have a very successful career. But if you will be on the, oh, I'll see what happens, I'll see, you're actually wasting time. You're actually burning your cards,
Mm.
right? Because you're not creating that credibility that you should when you're entering, especially if you're a grad.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to this episode of Graduate Theory. If you haven't already subscribed to the Graduate Theory newsletter, you can do so via the links in the show notes. The Graduate Theory newsletter comes out every single Tuesday morning with my thoughts and lessons from each episode. But without further ado, let's get back into it. Yeah, definitely. That's interesting. And I'd love to ask too, you mentioned there the CV, resume, that sort of thing. I'd love to kind of get
Yeah,
in the weeds here a little bit with some of this into the details,
yeah.
and talk about kind of the approaches that you bring to these kinds of documents, because obviously there are quite important. Yeah, because without having a good setup here, you won't get to the interview, and so you're getting sort of knocked out the first round. So I'd love to
Mhm.
just ask you, what are some big uh, perhaps you can start wherever here, but like some mistakes that you commonly see with these types of documents that people
Mm,
just commonly are like, okay, you don't have this right, like go, like we need to fix this like straight away. Is there any like common
mm.
like problems there that you see often?
Yeah, look, a very, very good question because the structure of the CV is extremely important, right? Why am I saying this? So here in Australia, as I mentioned to you before, I've worked in different areas of career development, recruitment, and guiding professionals. So each company, let's say if you're talking about recruitment agencies, right, and you're dealing with a recruiter, these people will be using a type of CRM to obviously collect that CV, and we start developing the database, let's say
Mm,
this. The large organizations, they will have a recruitment area. They will have a different type of CRM.
mm,
The consulting business will have a different type of CRM. So each company will use that CRM, that database, for a different purpose. A recruitment agency is much more specialized because that's what they do. They map the entire market and they highlight talents to their clients. Not necessarily a consulting business will do the same because they're dealing with internal clients. Not necessarily an internal recruitment business from a large organization will have the same CRM because they work internally.
mm,
So why am I telling you all this? Because a lot of people get caught up in the illusion because they do not have much understanding about what the market's looking for, and they just create let's say a CV in a Canva, right? So if you are in a UX design, if you are in a very alternative area of work, fair enough. But if you're going to the corporate world and you're putting a lot of tables, photos, different clicks, and once that CV is uploaded into the system, the information gets all confused and all messed up.
mm,
The majority of the time, these people do not get called for future opportunities, not just the one that they applied for. Because the intention when you're applying to a job inside a large organization is for you to be in that database and be called a little bit in the future, further down the future, right? You want people to identify your skills when they're doing the search. But if your CV got a lot of tables, photos, it's too fancy,
mm,
too fancy, too much quantity, not much quality. You actually just create an illusion for yourself, and then you're just going to be, oh look, I've done this CV amazing on Canva, and I never get called.
mm,
And then you come and work with a professional that will develop a CV tailored to your area, tailored to what you're looking to achieve, tailored to your personality, what the market's looking is specifically for those skills, etc., etc. The person just get one CV out and they get 10 interviews, right? So that's how it works. So again, if you do not have the knowledge, do not waste your time just on the illusion, oh, I'll see what happens, because we'll see what happens. We'll pull you behind, not ahead,
mm,
right? It's very interesting when you actually when you are dealing with different personalities, because people go, oh, can't believe it's happening. But because there is a technique behind it, right? It's not just put a photo, a little balloon, a little whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah, I've seen that too. It's I don't know what the word I've seen used to describe it, but yeah, it's this software where like you put your resume into it, and then like
Yeah,
things like that, like tables and images or whatever it is, like they just it like can't read those things properly, and so then when I don't know, I've forgotten the name of this thing. It might be called an
yeah,
ATS
yeah,
or something, where it's like trying to
yeah, yeah.
categorize you and trying to sort of take your resume and
Hmm.
extract like your skills and stuff. You can't really do that if you're
Exactly.
yeah, if it's all tied
Exactly
up in
right.
tables and things like
Exactly.
that. So it's interesting.
Exactly
Um,
right. Very
mm,
important.
nah, cool. That's so cool. And what about the cover letter? Is there anything there that's like a similar? And perhaps one question too is like cover letters. Do you see them as being like really common? Have they sort of become less common? Because I feel like now
Look,
it's I don't know, I don't see them. I feel like they're getting less common. But I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts and perhaps well, yeah, what someone could do to write a good one.
yeah. So from my experience, usually cover letter, the jobs they're asking for cover letter are the jobs that they are very specific. right? If I am not looking for someone in a specific, or if I just want to know who is available in the market, I usually don't ask for cover letter
Mm.
because I want to have the flow of potential candidates coming to my inbox. But if I am wanting to target their market or that type of individual, that type of skills, I will potentially ask for cover letter because that will help my search. So rather than going and analyzing 3-4 pages of CV, I'm going to read the cover letter. In that cover letter, the candidate must tell me why he's good to do that job and what are the skills that he has that actually matches with the job description. So then I will have naturally an interest
Mm.
in interviewing this guy or an interest in reading their CV. So the cover letter, think about that. It is the main is the book main front page,
Mm.
right? So when you're in the library or in a bookshop, you're gonna go and say, "Oh, maybe this book's good. I don't know. Let me have a quick look." You go, "Oh, awesome!
Mm.
It's everything I want to read about." And then what do? You buy the book and then you read. The cover letter helps works pretty similar to that, right? Because you're going to read that and you're going to go, okay, great, that's a potential candidate. Let me see more. And then you're going to go into detail on the CV. Um, but obviously that's different for, each company or, recruitment agencies really. They
Mm.
usually do not ask for cover letter because the candidates are the product, right? So you need to map the market and you become specialist in the market. So you need to understand who is there. But for large companies, specific projects, they will be asking for it.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting, yeah, interesting way to put it. I hadn't thought about it like that.
Have you had that experience with cover letter? Have you had to write
I
one
think I
so
maybe,
far?
yeah, like I haven't applied, like most of the recent jobs I applied for was when I was applying for graduate roles, which was probably
Yeah.
2 years ago now. And so that was like
Yeah.
the last big batch of applications I did. And I think I maybe wrote a couple of cover letters, but vast majority of grad roles yeah, were just very general. Sometimes it was only like some of those games that you have to play. I like to
Mm.
test some skills. I don't know exactly
Yeah,
they
yeah,
do,
yeah, yeah.
but that was kind of the main thing. So certainly, I would say maybe like yeah, maybe 10% of the jobs required a cover letter.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't that many at all.
That's
Mm.
true. That's correct. Yeah, that's it. Because if you're going for a grad job, right,
Mm.
or a graduate role, they want to see different aspects of your personality. They want to see if you have done perhaps a volunteer job.
Mm.
What was your attitude towards starting a career?
Mm.
So it's a completely different approach than when you're dealing with a professional that has been in the market for 2, 3, 4 years plus,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely. No, that's yeah, that's an interesting yeah, it's an interesting way of looking at it. I like it. Um,
You're listening to me just thinking about your experience. Okay, I've done that. No, I haven't.
yeah.
Cool. Makes sense.
No, definitely. Well, I'd love to ask too. Kind of, you're seeing a lot of these people kind of apply for roles and helping them do that. What is one area of the process that you think people underappreciate or underestimate, like just how valuable, like fixing this particular
Hmm.
aspect might be? Is there anything that comes to mind there?
Yeah, very, very good question. I like that. So, something that I think people underestimate is networking, right? People don't really see the value in networking. But the reality is, once you're in this market for a little while, you will understand that it's not only about what you know, but who you know.
Mm.
So if you know the right people, these people will give you a shortcut of the process. These people will guide you and mentor you towards your goals. And these people, they are connected with other people that will connect you to other people. And that's when you start creating the network. And then you start kind of, getting into the market you're looking to. So, but also for you to do networking,
Mm.
you need to get out of a comfort zone, right? You need to research for events. You need to research for happy hour. Before the pandemic, there were a lot of happy hour networking events. Oh, Thursday 5 p.m. beers that's some place, or da da da,
Mm.
professionals of, I don't know, IT professionals or marketing professionals, right? In one of these networking events that you go, you connect with 5, 10 people that will lead you to another 10, 20, and the story goes on. but people don't necessarily focus on networking.
Mm.
And networking is extremely important, right? Because if you don't know the important people in the market, so how are you going to go about it?
Yeah.
You will develop your skills further, no worries, but it will be a little bit slower,
Mm.
right? If you know the right people, you get there a little faster, and with a little bit of coaching and mentoring, you can stand out from the crowd for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I totally agree, and I think yeah, knowing the right people is like yeah, a bit of a yeah. I mean, everyone knows those kinds of people that kind of get jobs through their network, and it's almost seen as like a oh, like they're so lucky, like they like just like they're this person
Yeah,
that they know gave them a job or whatever. But I guess you can sort of flip that and think who like is there anyone that in my network or
totally,
who can I meet that I
totally,
can have that kind of opportunity as well.
totally.
Mm.
Totally. And I see this, for example, now that I've been with New Mind Consulting since 2020, and been working the Australia market for 13 years now. My clients, right, the clients from the corporate world, the clients that I have in New Mind Consulting in terms of one-on-one
Mm.
sessions or workshops and stuff, they know the quality of the work or the way you operate and all that. So if you go onto my LinkedIn profile, you're going to see all the recommendations I have in there. That's a short list ready to go,
Mm.
because you've got all people there that are extremely well qualified, but they've gone through the coaching process of what to expect in this market, how to position themselves, how to present a CV, cover letter, LinkedIn, how are you going to verbalize your ideas and create that credibility through an interview process. And all this helps, right?
Mm.
So majority of my clients, the ones that leave a recommendation on the profile, is very interesting because they come back and say, oh, thank you so much. I left your recommendation. So and so got in touch with me. I'm already on an interview.
Mm.
And the client calls me and say, Juliana, by the way, I'm hiring so and so. Wonderful, right?
Mm.
The end result of the work that you do is extremely rewarding. Seeing people calling you afterwards and say, look, I've got a job. By the way, that communication skills that we were working in my life coaching sessions, they are now impacting on my career in my career, because I'm dealing with my manager in a certain way that I had to communicate with my wife perhaps.
Mm.
So again, everything's interlinked, right?
Yeah.
Life and career. So but going back to your question, the networking helps a
Yeah.
lot.
No, definitely. No, that's super cool. Um, I- I'd love to kind of go into a bit more of a general career questions for you. And one of those is like out of you've seen a lot of people kind of go from job seeker to have a job and kind of then progress into someone that sort of flourishes in the workplace. I'd love to ask you,
Yeah.
what traits do you see in these kinds of people that, um, what traits allow people to succeed? Is there any traits there that are common across people that tend to find it like super easy? They got their job super easy and now they're off doing amazing things. Like, are there any traits there that are perhaps similar across those kinds of people?
Okay. Super easy, unfortunately, doesn't really exist. It doesn't
Okay.
really exist. The super easy, when you're talking about, I'm just thinking about my experience when I first arrived in Australia, right? I always knew about my potential, and but I didn't know anything about Australia,
Mm.
especially about the market, right? So when I started, I was doing what the majority of the people do. Oh, let me see what happens. I believe in my potential. I know I'm going to get an interview. I know I'm going to get a job, until I got to a point that I was like, hang on a minute, there is something I'm missing. What is it?
Mm.
And then I start looking for guidance. I worked with professionals in the market that were coaching me throughout the process, that do the job that I do
Mm.
nowadays. And that became a little bit easier to create credibility, because I knew what people were expecting from me, but not because I've done something, outside of the world. I believe that when you're looking to enter in the Australian market, if you know how to set up your CV, cover letter, LinkedIn, and you know how to create credibility through that document, the interview is pretty much the same approach, but the verbalization of what has created that credibility.
Mm.
So once you understand that, it is much easier for you to pass to a second stage of the interview and get an offer, right?
Mm.
If you don't, you might be answering something that people are not really expecting, and that's when you fail.
Mm.
But you don't know that because you haven't had a professional guiding you throughout that. And then you're going to be like, oh, maybe my CV is not good, or maybe this, maybe that. And the reality is all about how you're going to verbalize your ideas and create that credibility.
Mm.
Um, you need to give a reason to your employer why they're going to hire you, right? Why? What can you do for my business? How are you going to add value to my company? What skills can you bring to the table? Oh, Juliana, but I'm a grad. I haven't worked. I don't have any experience in a corporate job or in a paid job. No
Mm.
problem. You can do a volunteer work. You can do an unpaid work. You can show to your potential employer that you have the attitude to get out of your comfort zone, that you are meeting people in the market, that you understand what they are looking for, that you have done your research in the company webpage, that you connected with so and so on LinkedIn from the company. So it's more about you developing the self,
Mm.
knowledge and the life kind of aspects, and then you adding that into your career challenges. Um, it's much easier. I wouldn't say easier, I don't like that word, but because nothing is really
Mm.
easy, you need to work for everything you're going to want to achieve. But once usually you solid in that part of life, career flows and vice versa.
Mm.
So my advice would be look for someone that can help you, so you be better guided, and you will definitely going to achieve your results. Definitely. There is no way you're not going to. If I arrived here with no English, right, and no idea, and I've been building and working hard for all these years, if I go there, anyone can get there,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
But you need to work hard. You need to work hard. You need to deal with frustrations. You need to deal with, a lot of different aspects for you to get to a point that you go, cool, I know what I'm doing. Great. I'm ready to go for this.
Mm. No, that's super good. I totally agree with like getting help and things like that. I think finding someone or something to help you like understand the process
Mm,
and work out what it is that you need to
yeah,
do can really, instead of you trying to work it out yourself, like having someone or yeah, like whatever it is, reading something, course, mentor like yourself or whatever it is, like yeah, that can just shortcut a lot of time off the
exactly.
process.
Exactly. And that comes all the personal aspects, right? You need to have determination. You need to be able to adapt. You need to pretty much back up what you're saying,
Mm.
right? You go into the interview, look, I can do this, and that, get you the job, and people go, oh, but they are, you're not well prepared,
Mm.
and then you create an illusion. And if you do not look for development in those areas, you're just going to become a victim of the system, right? Oh, and all my bosses, they are this. Oh, all the jobs that I go is like this. Oh, all the people that I work for, it's not really about that.
Mm.
It's about you understanding where the gap is, working hard to amend that point, improve that point in your life. And, the purpose of New Mind Consulting here is build the best version of yourself, because you will build, right?
Mm.
It is a process. You're building every day. It's not, boom, I've done a course, I'm ready to go.
Mm.
Um, I wish, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you wish as
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. Well,
well.
I've got like one more question here for you, Juliana, and
Okay,
that is
cool.
around, a lot of the audience listening is kind of grads or early career people looking to sort of,
Nice.
start their career and start it off in the right manner. And I'd love to ask, thinking about yourself and your journey, if you could kind of wind back the clock to when you first graduated uni and went out into the world of work, knowing what you know now and all the things you teach, what would you go back and is there any advice you'd give yourself if you're in that stage
Mm.
now?
Okay, if I'm in that stage now. So going back to my first point, look for someone that will guide you, that will give you a full picture, because it's so much easier when you know where you're going. And I'm saying this because I've gone through that process myself here in Australia. I've tried, a couple of times to get into the market with the knowledge that I had back in the days. I was 23, 24 years old,
Mm.
and I wasn't getting anywhere. Once I hired someone and I said, look, this is where I come from. This is the experience I have so far. this is where I want to go, and this is what I would like to achieve. How can I prepare to actually face the challenge and actually getting there? Okay, so we're going to have to work on CV, cover letter,
Mm,
LinkedIn. We're going to have to work on a mock interview. What's your interview style? Interview is one of the crucial points here, right? Because the majority of the people think, oh, do you have a questionnaire that I can have a look?
mm,
Or do you have a video on YouTube? Look, not really, because the worst thing you can do in an interview process is decorating answer and question and answer, question and answer. Because when you're in an interview, obviously you will know more or less what they're going to be asking you, but more than that, you need to build your thought process. You need to learn how to build your thought process. Because if the interviewer asks you something that is outside of your preparation, let's say,
mm,
you're going to go blind. You're going to go, oh, and then you just answer whatever. And after all the excitement, went down, you just go, I shouldn't have answered that. Oh, I didn't prepare for that. Oh, that question that I decorated wasn't
mm,
asked. So it is not about decorating, it's about you learning how to create credibility through, your thought
mm.
process. How do you build that thought process? How do you tell your story? So that comes on the mentorship as well, right? So if you know what you're doing, good on you. Get yourself ready, go for it. All the best luck. If you don't know or if you're in doubt, search for a professional, search for someone
Mm.
that will, clear the road for you so you can drive through and get to your final destination.
Yeah, perfect. That sounds easy. Perfect. Well, yeah.
Sounds easy, doesn't it?
Well, thanks so much for your time today, Juliana. And I'd love to ask, people that are
Wonderful.
listening, where they can go to find out more about yourself and hear about the things you do.
Okay, beautiful. So I've got an Instagram page, is at New Mind Consulting. And I also have a website, newmindconsulting.com.au. And my LinkedIn page is Juliana Owen. You'll find me there as well. And yeah, anyone looking for help to build the best version of themselves, just get in touch. It will be a pleasure to help.
Fantastic. We'll have links to all that stuff in the show notes. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on the show today, Juliana.
Nice one. Thank you so much for your time as well. Pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you want to get my takeaways, the things that I learnt from this episode, please go to graduatetheory.com/subscribe, where you can get my takeaways and all the information about each episode straight to your inbox. Thanks so much for listening again today, and we're looking forward to seeing you next week.